Noah asks, Tunnels and Trolls 5th edition. Luck seems to have some unique qualities among the prime attributes. It is implied that luck is the typical attribute used for saving rolls. Second, it advances at a much faster rate than the other attributes. Third, it is both passive and active. I think this is an overreading. I mean, his question, to get to the question, like I had a little trouble with it, JC's. He says, what best practices have you discovered around luck, saving rolls, and the other prime attributes in play? Okay, the first is that to abandon the idea that luck is the primary. Yes, it's the easiest one to explain. And yes, it may have played a bigger role in Ken St. Andre's experience, or it may not. We don't know. He certainly refers to it a lot. But there's a lot of places in the rules that refer to other prime attributes as the saving role. So I'm dubious about the idea that, if it's mentioned 5 times, the other ones are mentioned 3 each, then it must be the most important. Or it's the first one that's referenced when he explains saving rolls, so it must be the most important. I don't know. That to me is sort of an, overstructured graduate student style of reading texts that I'm not too sympathetic toward. Looking at this, okay, so first of all, it's implied that it's the typical. Well, I'm not sure it's implied. Those details that I mentioned don't impress or interest me. Second, it advances at a much faster rate than the other attributes. When you go up a level, you'll get double the level you've just got to in luck. So you go to second level, and if you choose that option, you're now +4 luck. You go to third level, you choose that option, you're now +6 luck. That's great, and you say, it advances faster. That's missing a certain point. You only get to pick one option. Some of them split between 2 attributes, like strength and constitution, for example. That's one of the options. Most of them are choose an attribute, and a certain multiple is involved. So, go up that number. Whatever your next level is, go up that much in intelligence, or whatever the rule is for intelligence. But the point is that you go up a certain amount as determined by the number of the level you've just attained, and it's a multiple. Most of them are fractions if it's not 1 or times 1. So luck is distinctive in that it is definitely got that double multiple, which is, you look at that and you're like, whoa, that's different. 2 points to make. As I just mentioned, you only get to pick one option. If you don't take that option when you go up a level, you don't get it. You don't get that +4 at level 2. You might take it at level 3 and get your +6, but you didn't get that +4, and you're not going to get it as, to fill in a gap of any kind. So it's not a matter of it advances faster than the others. If you choose it to advance, then it goes up at a bigger, a faster rate than they would have, but they didn't go up at all. Similarly, if you pick one of the others, as I say, your luck doesn't go up. So don't think of all the attributes advancing at some steady rate, 1 for each, and then the luck is going up faster than the rest. That doesn't happen. If you look at a 10th level character, that character's luck may not, maybe you never picked the luck option. So let's think about this as well. Saving rolls, conceivably, can be treated as appropriate to the level of the dungeon you're on, so that the default saving roll in the 3rd level of the dungeon is 3, as a 3rd level roll, which would mean that you would see, 12, 20, 25, 30. You would be subtracting your attribute from 30, and then that's your target number or less on 2d6. Target number or higher on 2d6. Well, the idea here is this. Even if you allow for some wiggle room, that something could require a saving roll, but is really not that challenging, and so you're not going to use the dungeon level. You'll drop it down a level or 2 or whatever. The saving roll target number going up based on the level of the dungeon you're on is really pretty brutal. A 5-unit shift in target number on 2d6 is no joke. So if you were to focus on luck and you get that exponential, well, it's not exponential, but you get that multiplied increase per level shift, then yes, as far as luck saving rolls are concerned, you are, depending on your starting value, at least, keeping pace with the difficulty of saving rolls based on luck. But considering that there are other saving rolls out there, strength or dexterity, intelligence, charisma, who knows what, you're not going up in those. And you will, I think, get a nice distinction and a meaningful distinction between characters who rely more and more and more on their luck and less and less and less on their luck. If you have your improvements go elsewhere, you're focusing on your capacity to cast spells, you're focusing on your capacity to wield weapons and carry more armor and all sorts of things. If you're focusing on that, the fact that you're not improving your luck like that means that it is really you are getting really unlucky. You're going to the 4th level of the dungeon. You're dealing with the fact that you rolled an 11 on your luck, for your initial character creation. Well, let's do the math, okay? First level's 20, 25, 30, 4th level 35. So you take your luck of 11, you subtract it from 35, which means that you've got a 24 target number or higher on 2d6. So that means you're going to have exploding dice. You're going to have to roll boxcars twice or roll doubles enough times sequentially, which is a similar, low percent, to have any hope of making that saving roll. So I think it is a significant point, therefore, that when that character might at 5th level say, all right, that does it. I made 5th level. I'm sick of being this unlucky. I've got one leg left, right? I'm going for my 5th level here. I've got my 5th level. I'm getting plus 10 luck. All right, 21 luck. Well, now he's 5th level. So, or if you go into the 5th level of the dungeon, now it's going to be 40 minus 21. You've still got a target number of 19 on your 2d6. In other words, yes, luck advances faster than the others if we're talking about just focusing on one of them through a series of level changes. But that's not how characters change, and that's not how things happen in play in terms of what goes wrong for you. So there's no way to beat this. There is no app or there is no strategy that allows you to maneuver, through the level changes so that you're not going to get screwed. The game requires a certain acceptance of your screwability. So I think that if you play through a number of levels and you see different characters, especially if people are playing multiple characters with multiple different kindreds, you will really see these interesting canalizations. And then those moments where somebody says, okay, I have been specializing that way, but now that, what, I think my fairy, really needs to be strength 5 instead of strength 1 when I hit 4th level. So instead of taking that plus 8 luck, the fairy probably already has ridiculous luck. We're going to get our strength beefed up so that my fairy can carry a few coins as well as, a dagger when I'm flying around, or be able to pump at least 1 or 2 spells out. So I hope that helps a little bit. It's very much a game that I think one has to get their hands dirty and actually go by working with the rules that we see. rather than trying to arrive at some kind of instantly obvious, strategic numerical device that would put us in the right space. The game doesn't really work that way. And then we've got another question from him, which is, we floated the idea of trying our hands at Sorcerer and Sword. Our run on Sorcerer was quite successful. 5 different characters reaching resolution, constant improvements, discoveries, and how to best use the game's instrumentation. For which I say thank you. That is excellent. And if you want to read what these psychos did with that Sorcerer game, it's available on Adept's Play. I can't say they did anything wrong, but it was, in fact, I'd say they did a whole lot of things right. It must have been quite an experience. That's all I had to say now. Okay, so we have readers of sword and sorcery fiction. Here's the question. I believe that you've advised that the Sorcerer supplements only be used after extensive experience with Here and Now Sorcerer. Let's clarify that a little bit. Here and Now Sorcerer isn't quite the point. Core book Sorcerer is the point. And remember, that doesn't have to be set in Here and Now. So the core rules is what I'm talking about, not necessarily the specifics of modern day play. I like modern day play, and I think it's a wonderful, wonderful space in which to be learning the game, but that's not the core issue at work here. The core issue here is that I'd like people to be good at the rules before going and jumping into the somewhat tweaked rules of Sorcerer and Sword. Are we jumping the gun by breaking out Sorcerer and Sword so soon? Well, I don't know. 5 different kickers over multiple sessions of core book play with the results that I've read about doesn't sound like so soon to me. It sounds pretty good. So, have at it. It's kind of my question, or my response. Are there any indicators you can point to that a group is ready for Sorcerer and Sword? There is a class I'm working on right now called Free Radical, in which I deal greatly with the learning processes and improvements of play. And I think that in the terminology that I've developed for that course, which I haven't given yet, I'd love to answer the question using those. But I don't know if it'll make sense without that. Let's see. If one were to say that we are no longer in a state of wondering why we do this with a particular die at a particular time, or wait, how did that work? It doesn't mean everybody's always an instant expert, and there's no reason not to flip open the book anytime you want, or to check in with each other anytime you want about how this or that works. So I'm not saying that those are all gone. What I am saying is that we're in a state where we know that the answer's there. We know that we're in a state where our reading of it, or our discussion of it, or our use of it has brought it to a point where we know it will work, and we're checking on the precise procedure just because we like it. In that state, and if we've reached a point whereby you yourself are changing in your relation to the fiction, and then the fiction itself has undergone changes, so that your new encounter with play at fairly small time units is very much, you're in another person and the river is another river. That may be a little too poetic for everybody, but the point being that this sensation or this experience of play, if that is occurring around and about the table, we see what the consequences of play are. We have seen changes occur And now those changes are starting to take on something very specific for each person. We are now moving into a point where play can be operating as per your use of it, as opposed to you sort of struggling with what this thing can do. Now it is operating per your use of it. When this is occurring, there is no reason why you could be considered unready for any other role-playing system. You are, in fact, ready for any other role-playing system. So my comments about Sorcerer is that it is not a very good idea at all to go jumping to some of the things in Sorcerer and Sword, which themselves require some understanding of specific things in Sorcerer. But if you are not good at, or have not developed that zone, I mean, if all you're really good at is, okay, we got through it, we struggled through play, or we said we were playing and we did a bunch of other things and talked a lot or made jokes or had fun or said things happened or whatever, but we never really quite were in tune with what these procedures had to do with that, except as some sort of interfering thing, perhaps, or utterly strategic thing. If that's where you're at, then you should keep working on whatever game it is you're playing, and bluntly, Sorcerer and Sword is not the one to do it with. I mean, it's a Harley. You jump on a Harley for the first time and say, I'm a motorcycle rider. Well, I'll scrape you off the pavement, I guess, but that's not much else I can do. So, to Noah, yeah, sure, rock on, go. Looks like the other thing I don't do is stand in front of the Harley when somebody is on it and, is ready to go and is revving, right? You're not going to see me try and get in front of you. So go, go, go.